The body stops, not with drama, not with noise, but with an unsettling stillness that fills the room like fog. Sometimes it happens in a hospital bed, the sterile scent of medicine in the air. Other times it happens at home, surrounded by loved ones holding hands, whispering prayers. And for some, it happens alone. The heart gives up its rhythm. The breath, once automatic, like the rising and falling tide, exhales for the last time. But at that very moment, something profound begins. Something invisible, something sacred. The soul, the true center of our consciousness, does not vanish. It does not flicker out like a dying candle. Instead, it begins its slow departure, an untying of threads that have been woven tightly into flesh and thought, memory and time. Spiritual traditions across the world describe this moment not as an end, but a beginning. And in that silence, something is happening. Many who've had near-death experiences describe this moment in eerily similar ways. A sudden lightness, a deep, unexpected peace, a sense of floating, not metaphorically, but literally, as if they've risen above their own body and are now looking down. They see themselves, pale, still, surrounded by tears and medical monitors. Yet they feel no fear, only observation, lucidity, a strange clarity, as though the fog of life has lifted for the very first time. Some hear the sobs of loved ones. Others feel the brush of hands trying to bring them back. But now, they are spectators of a scene they can no longer interrupt. Conscious, but no longer of this world. In esoteric teachings, they speak of a cord, a silver cord, linking the physical body to the spiritual one. As long as this cord remains intact, the soul can return. But when it breaks, there is no return. That break doesn't always happen instantly. In some deaths, especially violent or sudden ones, the soul lingers in confusion. It tries to move the mouth, to speak, to scream, but the body no longer obeys. It tries to wake up, convinced this is a dream, but it isn't. The disconnection is gradual, like waking from anesthesia, except the body is left behind entirely. And in this first phase, the soul begins to realize, I am no longer alive, at least, not in the way I knew. The emotional weight is heavier than most imagine. Imagine living a life believing death is final, that everything simply ends, and then finding yourself conscious, watching your family weep, hearing them whisper your name, call you back, but you can't respond. You can feel their love, but not their touch. This is the first truth the soul must accept, that death is not the end of awareness, but a redefinition of it. For those who were spiritually prepared, those who cultivated faith, reflection, and inner balance, this transition feels different, gentler. They often describe the presence of beings, guides, old friends, family members long gone, arriving not with fear, but with welcome, warmth, recognition. There's a sense of being held, of being told, without words, it's okay now, you're safe, you're home. And in that moment, the soul begins its first steps into the subtle plane, an invisible world more real than anything it has known. But for others, this step isn't so smooth. Souls deeply attached to the material world, to possessions, relationships, regrets, struggle. Some don't realize they've died. They try to go home. They walk through walls. They sit beside their children. They speak, but no one hears them. And this silence becomes anguish. These wandering spirits aren't evil. They're simply lost, disoriented, still wrapped in the veil of human routine, trying to fulfill duties they no longer have the means to carry out. It can take hours, days, sometimes weeks, for them to realize what's happened. Many spiritual traditions, Spiritism, Buddhism, ancient Hindu beliefs, agree that the first 7 days after death are a crucial threshold. During this window, the soul remains near, hovering close to the material world, processing, watching. And if you've ever felt a strange chill during a funeral, a warm breeze in a still room, a quiet voice in a dream that felt too real, perhaps it was them. Perhaps they were there. What happens in these 7 days can shape everything that follows. The way we grieve matters. Our words, our thoughts, our love, these reach beyond the veil. They become whispers, signals, lights along the path for a soul seeking peace. The first breath ends the body's journey, but for the soul, this is only the beginning. After those first 7 days, when the soul remains close to the world it just left behind, something begins to shift. It's not sudden, it's not dramatic, but it is unmistakable. The emotions of the soul begin to settle, like the surface of a lake after a storm. The confusion fades slightly, replaced by something deeper, a kind of awareness, a gentle pulling from within, calling the soul toward a new phase. Spiritual traditions across many cultures point to a cycle of 40 days, a period of detachment, reflection, and healing. A time when the soul gradually lets go of its human attachments and begins to understand its new condition. The number 40 is no coincidence. It shows up again and again. 40 days of rain in the flood, 40 years in the desert, 40 days after resurrection. In Spiritist teachings, in Buddhism, in Christian rites, it always marks transformation, transition. During these 40 days, the soul doesn't just float. It reviews. It replays moments, some big, some small, but all meaningful, not through memory, but through feeling. If you once made someone laugh until they cried, you'll feel that joy again, through their heart. If you ever wounded someone deeply, you'll feel that pain, not as punishment, but as understanding. You'll see what your presence left behind in others. This is not judgment. No voice thunders from the sky. No scales weigh your sins. It's quieter than that, more intimate. The soul becomes the witness to its own life, not from a distance, but from within every person it ever touched. And this might be the most powerful revelation of all, that nothing is ever isolated. Every word, every silence, every embrace or betrayal, it echoes. It remains. The soul relives not just what it did, but why. The intentions, the fears, the hopes, and in doing so, it begins to heal. But healing is not automatic. Some souls experience peace during this time. Others, regret. Others still resist, clinging to illusions, to guilt, to pride. And so they remain tangled, even without a body. Still, no soul is alone. There are presences. Some call them mentors, others guides. Beings of light, wisdom, compassion. They don't judge. They illuminate. They show the soul not just what it did, but what it could have done. Not to shame, but to expand, to help it grow. And with each realization, each release of resentment, fear, or grief, the soul's vibration changes. It lightens. It lifts. The connections to material life begin to dissolve. Home, possessions, identity. The soul doesn't forget these things, but it sees them differently now, like shadows of something it once mistook for the whole. What remains are the purest bonds, the love that was real, the lessons that mattered, the essence of who it truly was beyond the masks. But even here, pain still reaches across dimensions. Some souls, in this period, feel the weight of those left behind, not out of blame, but out of love. They sense their children crying into the night, They hear the whispered, "Come back," the aching, "I can't live without you." These thoughts pull on the soul like invisible threads. And though it longs to comfort, it cannot stay. Because staying means not healing. Letting go isn't abandonment, it's the only way forward for both. That's why the emotional state of the living matters. Grief is human, it's natural. But grief that clings, that refuses to loosen its grip, becomes a kind of chain, binding the soul to a world it can no longer belong to. Some souls try to visit during this time, in dreams, vivid dreams, not hazy, half-remembered fragments, but full, rich, unmistakable encounters. The kind you wake from in tears or laughter, heart pounding with a strange kind of knowing, because it wasn't just a dream, it was a meeting. These dreams are often the soul's way of saying goodbye, or thank you, or I'm okay now. Sometimes they say nothing at all, just a smile, a presence, a held hand. But they say enough. They are bridges, moments of shared frequency, proof that the connection hasn't been lost, only changed. And so the soul continues. By the end of these 40 days, something closes, an energetic cycle completes. If the soul has accepted its journey, if it has reviewed, understood, and begun to heal, it rises, not physically, but vibrationally. It feels lighter, more itself, free. It may leave a final sign, a breeze, a sudden peace, a symbol shared only between it and the one who remains. And then it steps forward, through a portal not seen but sensed. For the living, this time can also feel like a shift, a sense that the worst of the pain has passed. The air is clearer, that, somehow, a new phase of life is beginning. And it is. Because what happens to the soul in these 40 days is mirrored, quietly, deeply, by what happens to the hearts it left behind. They are both, in their own way, learning to let go. After the 40 days of review and release, the soul begins to enter a new space, a quieter space, one that isn't defined by the noise of memory or the gravity of human emotion. By now, most souls have moved beyond the places where physical life still lingers. They are no longer hovering over hospital rooms or whispering into dreams. They are being called somewhere else, not with sound, but with vibration, with light, with truth. Where does the soul go next? There is no single answer, no map, no rigid path. The destination is not a place, but a reflection of the soul's inner state, its frequency, its readiness. Some are drawn into what are known as spiritual colonies, realms of light described across different traditions, cities that shimmer with a strange beauty, places where thought shapes reality, where peace hums like background music, where learning, healing, and preparation continue. Others find themselves in more subtle landscapes, gardens that breathe, fields that glow, halls where beings gather not to speak, but to share energy. Here, the soul is not alone. It meets others, some familiar, some unknown, some who guided it in life without ever revealing their names. And then there are the souls who are not ready, souls that carry dense emotions, shame, fear, resentment. These souls remain closer to the lower vibrational layers, not as punishment, but as resonance. They go where they vibrate, like a radio tuned to the only frequency it understands. Even there is help. No soul is abandoned. There are guides who descend to these places, offering compassion instead of condemnation. Their presence alone becomes a healing, a reminder that even the most lost consciousness carries light. But most souls, after their 40-day transition, begin to settle into their new state. They rest deeply. Some sleep for long stretches, as if recovering from a lifelong fatigue. Others begin a new phase of learning, not from books, but from energy, from vibration, from direct experience. They enter spiritual schools. Yes, schools, where wisdom flows like current. They learn not just about the universe, but about themselves, about why certain events happened, why they made certain choices, what they still carry, what they must still release. And they begin to remember, not the life just lived, but the lives before. The soul's long, winding journey through time, space, and form. It's here, too, that the soul is faced with a decision. Some choose to stay in these higher dimensions for a long time, helping other souls, guiding the living, deepening their essence. Others feel the call to return, to try again, not out of failure, but of purpose, to be born into a new life, with new lessons. And that decision is not made lightly. It is studied, planned, prepared for with the help of spiritual mentors. And yet, even while in this new phase, the connection to Earth doesn't completely vanish. Souls still visit. They come back, not to stay, but to witness, to console, to guide, in dreams, in whispers, in sudden feelings of peace that seem to arrive from nowhere. Some are felt as a presence in a room, a favorite song playing unexpectedly, a flicker in a candle with no breeze, a familiar scent in an empty house. Others appear in moments of danger, nudging a loved one to stop, to turn around, to make a different choice. A silent intervention that shifts the course of a day or a life. But these visits are never forced. They are gentle, subtle, aligned with a deep spiritual intelligence that never imposes, only invites. And then comes the first anniversary. 1 year since the moment the body stopped. 1 year since that final breath. To the living, this day often brings a wave of memory, of ache, of presence. But on the spiritual side, it marks something more. It is an energetic closure, a full circle. The soul, by this point, is no longer the same. It has shifted, released, transformed. It now exists in a state far from where it began. A new consciousness, shaped by all it has lived, all it has felt, all it has learned. And for the ones still on Earth, the first death anniversary becomes something sacred. A chance not just to grieve again, but to understand. To recognize that death is not the severing of connection, but the changing of it. To know that love did not end, it evolved. And to feel, somewhere deep inside, that those we've lost are never truly gone. They have simply gone ahead, waiting, watching, loving, quietly, until the day we, too, step beyond the veil and remember everything.